This is another watercolour painting I'm doing. This is a sketch of the scene. It's a beach in Saundersfoot, and there are some, I guess, surfers learning to surf or paddleboard on the beach, and that's what we're going to paint. I'm going to start off in a way that I seem to start these days, using a ruler just to mark the horizon. It's just a very faint pencil line that I put in, and also just using the ruler width there to mark the edge of the beach. And why not? You've got a ruler in your hand, you might as well use the tools. And now I'm just going to sketch in the main headland. There's a little island kind of bit that juts off the end of Saundersfoot, which you look across towards Tenby. That's what we're going to put in here. I like working from my sketch. I do take photos, but I tend to work from my sketch after I've got it all drawn up. And I think that kind of helps you to loosen up when you're drawing to like a picture that you've taken. You tend to be a lot tighter. And so if you've got just the sketch, and there it is again, you can see that I'm just going to copy some of these details and put them in. So I'm just adding the position for the figures really. And these are very simple shapes. I've heard lots of people describe figures as carrots, and they are. It's just a little dot on the top and then an elongated shape down to the feet. And the nice thing about this scene for me, and the bit that I wanted to get in, was the shadows, or the reflections rather, of the people learning to surf. And that's where we're going to hopefully end up at the end of this painting. I think there's an even number of people in there, but they're all holding, or some of them are holding surfboards, some of them aren't. So it kind of, I tried to make an uneven number of things, so there should be an uneven number of bits and bobs once I've finished sketching bits and pieces out. If you look at the sketch, you can see I'm going to do a kind of a dark sky at the top. I probably actually won't worry too much about the horizon line, and then just a plain beach, and then concentrate on getting those reflections in. Yeah, so that's the plan of attack. Talk a bit more about the colours and the brushes I'm going to use as the film moves on. I'm taking quite a bit of care on some of these figures, because some of them were not face on, some of them to the side. And it's just creating interesting shapes really. I'm not drawing people, I'm just drawing a shape of a person, something that might look interesting to the viewer, but is suggestive of people. And adding some puddles in now. There's great rivulets, I think that's what you call them, running down to the sort of the sea on this beach, and that's what we're putting in. And also some rough guidelines really. I do this a lot when I'm sketching, just some random lines to draw you to what will be the centre of attention of the people. So that's the sketch done. Now we're going to kind of move on to this picture here, which is an Edward Wesson painting, very simply done. And a couple of things that I like here are the horizon. The horizon is not straight. And I've got a post-it note there of the things I want to achieve in the painting. Sometimes that's handy to have just to the side to remind you where you want to put your details, your highlights, that sort of thing. But most important on this is to make sure I get a nice raggedy edge on those far distant rocks and hills. Because I think sometimes if you look to the horizon, you'll see that there is a sort of a rockiness to things. Now this is a big brush, and the colour I'm using here is a mixture of ultramarine and probably I think I can't remember what the colour's called now. What's the name? Rose, permanent rose. It's a reddy colour, so I'm making a kind of a purpley dark coloured sky. There may even be a little bit of yellow in this mixture. I tend to pick up all three colours when I want to make a grey, and that's it really for the sky. I'm just going to brush in some plain water and bring that down into the sea area, and I can go across the rocks and the distant hills, because I'm going to kind of cover them in a different and a darker colour. And yeah, just pulling this colour down to the bottom of the page, really. The plan of attack being to get some, I don't know, some sort of atmosphere into that water there, just doing some dry brush strokes to indicate how rough the sea was at the time. And it was quite rough, as I remember. I think this was mid-afternoon, but this sky in this painting actually looks kind of early morning. So there you go, just put a wash of kind of bluey grey muck across the paper there, and just a dab of water at the top just to get some what would be sort of rain clouds or rain coming down the page, and clearing out the horizon line there just with just a swipe at the brush, really. And then you just have to let that dry a little bit. It's very important with watercolour to remember to let things dry. You can do wet in wet techniques, and some of this will be wet in wet, but yeah, always remember to kind of stop and dry. I do paintings in kind of 3 steps: the sky, the middle distance, and then the detail. And I let the painting dry in between each. And you saw me just drag the brush down there again, just to get to a kind of a hint of bad weather, rain coming down through those clouds into the scene. Because, like I say, it was a particularly damp day at Saundersfoot when I did the original sketch and took the pictures for inspiration. Just basically now making sure I don't get too many runs or cauliflowers. Well, I do like a cauliflower in the sky, adds to the scene. So this is all dried now, and I'm going to go in and put in this headland. And again, this is where I've got to remind myself not to put a straight edge, to be raggedy, because it's a stormy day, and when you look across to the Bay of Saundersfoot, you're not going to see a straight edge because the waves are going to be crashing against those distant hills. So that's what we're aiming for, some sort of rough horizon line there, not a straight horizon line. And Edward Wesson, I think, did that quite a bit when he was painting these things. If you look at some of his paintings, there isn't a straight edge, it's a very rough edge. And this colour, again, is just a mixture again of the sky colour, ultramarine blue, a little bit of yellow, which will be quinacridone gold, and permanent rose. 3 main colours that I use. Fairly warm colours, cool colours, I guess. It depends how you put them on the page. And I'm taking that as far to the right of the page as I can, and I'll frame this later to give me the image that I want. There you go, just roughing up those edges there. So there's not a straight edge there, it's just a rough edge. Now I'm probably thinking about putting in some of the sand. We can go over some of this blue sea that's there at the moment and put the sand in and leave room, hopefully, for the puddles and the reflections, which is like I say, the main part of the painting that I wanted to do or show. Mixing up probably quinacridone gold, a little bit of permanent rose, and a tiny amount of ultramarine blue. Testing the corner. Always test your mix before you whack it on your paper, or whack it on your paper and then adjust it. But don't kind of go for it if you don't know what the colour is. So here we go. I'm just going to strike through underneath these people, as there's a puddle I want to create just beneath them. Using dry brush. There's a surfboard here that I just wanted to paint around before I started going mad with the detail. The figure's actually going to be quite dark, so I can go over them if I want. And here we go. This is the advantage of a big brush. When you swipe across, you get these lovely dry brush strokes where the paint is not sort of is drier in the brush. And there we go, creating some wonderful puddles and sort of areas of wet sand. Probably add some darker colour in towards the base of the painting, just to anchor it down. I think if you don't do that, the paintings tend to look a bit washed out. There we go. And again, not a straight edge, a nice wonky edge where the tide is coming in. You can't quite see it in the film, but the crashing wave is there as well. There's a nice white space beneath the crashing wave, all indicated, all imagined. And that basically is a very simple painting. When you look at it, very simple painting. I don't like to be complicated, I have to say. And there we go, putting in the dark just to anchor the bottom of the painting in. And you get those sort of sand rises, and it's slightly wetter than other sand, and that's what I'm trying to indicate here. Those lovely sort of paths into the painting, but trying to remember to keep those puddles. It's always quite difficult because I think you get to a stage of, oh, I'll just do another mark there, another mark there. You have to remember not to. As you can see, I'm not very good at that. I just like to swipe the brush backwards and forwards like a madman, painting madly. But there you go. I think that gives you the major impression of what I'm trying to achieve now. I've got the beach, I've got the puddles, just damping out some of those hard lines that can be quite distracting. It's always good to look at your painting as you go and try and make sure you're not leaving too many hard edges. Anyway, stop fiddling. Do that a lot. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Yeah, see, there you go. You fiddle too much. You've got to dry out and take out some of these marks that you've made. You can do that with watercolour. You can correct things. You just have to be a bit careful with your timing. Otherwise, you can remove too much paint or create things that you don't want, like cauliflowers. I'm adding some darker colour in now, just to the edges of the puddles. And again, just some marks into the painting. And the edge of where the sea meets the sand, there's always a sort of a darker edge. So I've just popped that in there. And now I'll be thinking about letting the painting dry. They say must make sure you dry the watercolour before you go back if you want to get some nice edges. So that's what we're going to do. So this should be the final time we tack the painting. I always do it in 3 bursts. And this is the bit of the painting that I think I don't enjoy as much because it's the detail. I'm not very good with detail. So I'm just putting some orangey, I suppose yellowy face colour and arms and things in, put them in first, and then add the dark to it and let it all run together, just to give you a hint of a face, where some of these people are looking towards you, some of them are looking away, some of them a bit of hair colour. There we go, just putting in, like I say, a carrot shape really. It really is that simple, and I've seen these on instructional videos and I thought, what are you talking about, carrot shapes? But that is, if you look very carefully, a carrot shape with little arms and things. Probably a weird carrot, one of those weird carrots that you sometimes pull up out of the garden, not quite straight and got extra bits on. That's how you do people. Paint people like odd-shaped carrots. I don't know if that's helpful advice or not, but there you go. And there were some children there, some smaller blobs of darkness. Get some of these people in. Again, very, very simple carrot shapes, all the way down to the ground. It's quite a lot of carrot shapes. Not much you can say about them. I've been to a lot of workshops and demos, and you watch people, and you think, wow, they're really talking about carrot shapes a lot here. Saundersfoot is one of our favourite holiday spots. I've got lots of photos and sketches, cartoons that I've done. One of our favourite spots. There's a lovely little cake shop, Sue's Pantry. We go there quite a bit, and I've done a cartoon of that, people standing outside admiring the cakes. I've also done a cartoon of the fish and chip shop, major fish and chip shop there. And all the menus, loads of fresh fish and all sorts of wonderful things that you get down by the seaside. I've done a lovely cartoon of that. Well, I think it's lovely. I think that's important as well. If you think your work is lovely, then it is lovely. You know, never doubt yourself. I never do. So this is quite a big carrot shape. It's obviously carrying a lot of weight. Surprised that you got a wetsuit to fit him, if I'm honest. They were hiring out this. There's a little. This is opposite a major coast restaurant, and yeah, you can see them down on the beach from the coast restaurant. We had some very expensive meals in there, meals that we've paid more than we pay for our shopping for the week. So here I am. I'm just adding some of these sort of sand reflections that you get at the seaside, and trying to cut round the paddle boards and surfboards that are on the beach. Here comes another carrot shape, folks, and I think there's another two to come. Oh boy, I love painting carrots. I think this carrot is actually talking to another carrot, so I think they may be linked. All very simple colours here, just a dark colour mixed from ultramarine, blue, permanent rose and Q.Gold. Makes a lovely sort of very dark colour. Yes, they started to extend the arm there, so that this character is helping the other character, I guess, with his bodyboard or surfboard. But just generally, I'm going to say it again. It's another carrot shape. It's just an impression. I apologise for the quality of some of this video. It's not quite as sharp as I would have liked. Here we go, carrot shape. So a nice orange dot on the top for the head. And here we go, nice dark linking into that orange top and just dragging down the legs. This person stood at a very strange angle. Very strange angle. Sometimes I paint these off the page first of all, so take a piece of scrap paper and just paint these carrot shapes, just so that you know how much water to have on your brush. It's very important you don't have too much water, otherwise they tend to carrot shape all over the place. They don't look so much like carrots, more like a splodge. Let's try and keep your mix quite thick. And here we go again, cutting around some of the shapes of the boards that these people are going to be learning to surf on. We created quite a nice island of sand just beneath them, and a couple of puddles just beneath, and one to the right. Like I say, this part of the painting is not part of the painting I really enjoy. All the detail. I'm just adding some surfboard colours there, reds and oranges. Going to disappear into the sand, I think. But that's not too bad. It's just a collection of shapes, and trying to join them all together to make a sort of a coherent whole is the aim of the game here. And yeah, so with a paddleboard, you've got your paddle. I'm using a nice flat brush just to give me that nice straight line up from the characters, holding their paddleboard paddles. Fortunately, all the carrots are in the right place to be holding their paddles. You should imagine people listening to this. What are you doing? He's talking about carrots again. Anyway, there you go. Just tapping them in. The paint's fairly dry, so I'm not going to get any cauliflowers here. At least I hope I don't. Just taking a bit of time on this. You know, you're sitting there thinking, come on, hurry up. We've seen you draw one. Get on with it. Somebody's hammering outside, that's quite nice. A little bit of sound effect for you. Unwanted, but there you go. So now we're mixing up the colour to do some of these reflections, the part of the painting that I actually wanted to show you. I'm going to draw them straight down, so it comes off the edge of the sandy bank through the puddle, and we got a nice little head shape there, and the line of the paddle. Next character, we just got the head because it's a smaller character. This character here, this carrot is a larger carrot, so we've extended him through the puddle, and there's a bit of sand there in the way, so that's added there. Next one, we're going to just pop in there. Again, it's not a whole reflection because the puddle doesn't extend that way. The end character in. Ooh, there we go. And that's just adding the lines of their paddleboard paddles. And I did question about whether or not to put in the headland as a shadow there, but I think it detracts too much from the kind of the shadows of the reflections of the people. So I ended up doing that in the end. But there is, I mean, there's an option. If I'd extended the puddle across the page, I could have probably put some of those reflections in. And here I am again, fiddling. I think watercolourists are the worst for doing this. Just going back into stuff and adding bits. I mean, obviously adding here the ends of the paddles, not just straight lines, they're sort of thicker bits on the end where you paddle. I don't know why I keep tapping that in. Just leave it alone. You're finished. Just redefining some of the shapes there. And there you go. This is my painting of Saundersfoot and people learning to bodyboard down by the coast. And this is what I said, by adding a frame at the end, you can adjust how much of that puddle you leave in to get your magic sort of framing. And there it is. That's how I framed it in the end. A picture of people learning to paddleboard at Saundersfoot.